Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, see right there? That right there is the problem. Right there, let's fix that. Okay, in our last few videos, we tore it down, fixed the block, short block, fixed the head, put it all back together again. Today we'll put the tractor back together again and get it running. We'll just kind of wash this cooler out and just throw some of that in the garbage. Now that mouse can find a new house to live in. First things first, we're gonna get back to building this thing, and we're gonna put this nice checked rad out. Now, same rad as what was in there before. I just sent it out to get pressure checked. So he cleans the outside, they flush the inside, and then they pressure test it to 15 or 20 PSI, leave it overnight, make sure there's no leaks. So this thing should be good for the next half a dozen years anyway before it runs into any issues. We got new rad hoses for it, and along with a new thermostat and water pump. And we washed this other cooler. You can see that's nice and clean now. Look at that bright shiny light. Shouldn't be any issues keeping our brand new engine from melting down like an old two-stroke Detroit. We'll bolt that back in again. So the rad used to have this claw stuff around the outside. There's nothing really that holds it in, just sits in the frame. But an old mud flap goes a long way. Keep a mud flap with some tin snips around, drop it in, a little bit of cover around the outsides. Good as new. I think we'll just let some air out of the tires, drop that down, we'll roll it together, we'll bolt it up, put the air back in the tires, put the rolling jack underneath here, then we can put the flywheel and the clutch and everything back on it, and then roll it back together again. Simple, right? Here we go. So, get out our rear main cover now. These have two dowels that center the housing for the rear main seal around the crankshaft. If it does not have those dowels, then I had that on a 4955 Deere before. You can put the housing off center and you'll be splitting it again. Because Deere can sometimes be dicks. Wonderful. And I was talking about not knowing where bolts go, and there was two clean Allen bolts, and I thought, where do they go? If they're clean, that means they're on the inside somewhere. There was no paint on them. And I'm like, great, I have no idea where those go. I'm pretty sure that those are from this engine. There's no reason why they shouldn't. I'm pretty sure that nobody came in and thought they'd be funny and leave two Imperial fine thread Allen bolts kicking around. And I'm like, okay, that's fantastic. I'm gonna be laying awake all night going, where do those go? I actually hid them on the bench because I thought you guys are gonna see them and you're like, Rich, you forgot those. Well, it turns out they go right at the bottom here. And that's why I said, don't get too worried because they only go in one spot. Oh, Torque used to say 18. Okay, after that we can put our flywheel back on. Keep in mind the clutch dust is not very good for you. I did change the pilot bearing, but I didn't change the clutch. Okay, now this is the clutch. You can see there's still lots of meat by the rivets. Pressure plate looks fine, no hot marks or anything. The splines all look good. Now I had somebody saying on the first video, why wouldn't you replace the clutch while you're in that deep? They must have missed the part where I said that it takes 15 minutes to split this tractor. Granted, it takes a little bit longer to put it back together, probably about a half hour, but we're not gonna put an $800 clutch in there just to save 45 minutes worth of labor. So this one will do just fine. We replaced the pilot bearing because that's only $4, but we're gonna roll it back together with this thing in it. So here we go. Now what I don't have, and I should have, is a pilot shaft. Alright, kitty, can you look in here and see if my shafts are lined up? Oh, yeah. Other way, numbness. I'm okay with that. I think we can get 40 out of it. Yeah, that's it, 40. Okay, so I said a half-hour roll together again, but I'm just making excuses now. It might take a little longer. We'll see if the battery dies before I get it back together again. And that's because if we were to do the clutch, we would roll it apart about 3 feet. We'd pull the clutch off, we put it back together again, and we'd roll it right back together again. I've had this thing pressure washed and I moved it around so my track is off. It's probably going to take me a little longer, and I don't have a pilot shaft for the clutch. So just me saying that was 43 seconds. Let's see if I can do it in 7 minutes. Oh man, life is good. There she goes. The battery's still rolling. Oh, battery light's flashing. Check that out. I think that's about it. Maybe just the pilot. But that's splines are in, not bad for not having a pilot shaft. Oh baby, yeah, just my dowel there. We're golden. Anyway, tighten this up. Then I'll probably still call it a day because that's all I wanted to do, so I can come back in the morning and button everything up. Okay, and one of the last things to do is a new oil pressure gauge with some new fancy, guaranteed not to crack for 5 years oil pressure line. No, I'm joking. I looked around for some oil pressure gauges and I put a new gauge in there because I'm not even sure the other one was working because it was rattling around in there. But I figured that if I was to put that cheap line back in again, I wouldn't hear the end of it from you guys or the inspector there. So what I did was I just took brake line and I put a single flare on the end. I took the nuts that were on it. If you can see that single flare there. That should seal in where the furrow would go. And then I just drilled the little cage nut or whatever out to 3/16. So put a loop in it. I can't do it by hand because the line is just, it's got the little marks on it from my thing. So when I say a single flare, is you just put this tool in there and squeeze it down. Don't put the double flare in with the point. And then we'll crank it over and make sure that we got oil pressure and that it doesn't leak. And then at least if it leaks, it'll run right down here or possibly down there. So, all right, here we go. Okay, so only a couple things left to do on the tractor. One of them is the exhaust. And if you see that, that's bad to have pointing up. The water comes in. Some tractors in the exhaust manifold, I've seen an actual drain in there so that it runs out. But anything that could potentially harm the engine that I just rebuilt, it's probably time to put a new one on. So we went to Lyle's, super inexpensive, grabbed the little muffler, a little angle that never goes bad. We can point that away from the operator, and a little piece of pipe expanded to fit the right thing. Here we go. All right, so we got coolant in it, we got engine oil in it, I gotta check my power steering fluid yet, whether we lost a bunch of that or not. I think I'm okay. Anyway, I'll check that, but we're gonna bleed the fuel. So first start, should start. I think it'll start. But first start's always kind of like passing a cop on the road. It's like, you're not doing anything wrong, but you're still a little nervous. You're like, oh, like, did I do everything? Was I speeding? Did I run that stop sign? How long has he been behind me? I'm much better than the first time I started an engine a long time ago. I delayed it as long as I possibly could, and heart's racing, and now it should fire. Neutral, full throttle. Nice, not even much smoke. We'll just check everything again. That actually started much better than I thought it would. First start, honest, I swear. Okay, we got the shop kind of rearranged. We got a little more work done on some other projects. Time to go grab the tractor. We'll take it down the road. It was nice and warm out when I put it outside. Canada, it's like 10 degrees one day, and then that afternoon you got snow and it's cold. Let's see if it even starts. Here we go. I went to town like 4 times. You think I remember to buy a clamp? No. Anyway, I did plug it in, so it should fire. Basically, we're just gonna get it warm up to temperature, and then we'll take it for a boot down the road. I'll put it in high gear and really lug it, try to seat the rings. It is important when you put your original oil in that you don't use good oil. Use crappy oil. You really want those rings to seat in the liners. Run it for about 20 hours and then change your oil. Any crap that was left in the engine, even though you're as clean as possible, there's still dust and everything. You want to get that out. Again, we're not building racing engines or NASCAR engines. We're not going to the moon. So it is just a tractor, but you still want to do your best, right? Our little throttle, neutral. We'll let that warm up a little bit. We'll keep an eye on fluids. We'll make sure that everything's all right. And then we'll take it down the road. Unfortunately, I don't have a PTO dyno to really work it, so what I was doing when I was driving down the road is kind of hitting the brake and letting it log down. We used to do it for about 15 minutes, and you could generally gain about 10% of the horsepower. So if this is a 60 horse, probably end up with about 66 horsepower by the time those rings seated. That's all I can do without the dyno. Gave it a little workout as best as I could, and from here on in, it's back into the field. So. Perkins is the only one that I know of that does this, but they want you to retorque the head while it's hot, which is a pain because it's hot and it cools down fast. I'm having trouble getting it up to temperature just because it's cold and I don't have a dyno. But took it for a good rip down the road. We'll pull the fuel tank back off again. And then pull the valve covers off. Hot. And then we'll retorque the head, we'll reset the valves. So go back to 100 foot-pounds while it's hot. So at this point, we'll put our rocker assembly back on again when it's cool. I'm gonna set the valves back to 12th hour when it's cool. We'll put the valve cover back on again and then run it outside for a long little bit. We'll give it a couple heat cycles and make sure that there's no leaks. And then the ultimate debate, do we paint the engine or do we leave it alone? Now, my old boss always wanted us to paint the engine and it looks beautiful while the rest of the tractor looks like crap. So I am not gonna paint it. I don't like the look because as soon as I start that, I feel like painting the rest of the tractor. It's not that kind of tractor. It's just a wagon hauler. So we're gonna leave it alone. The warranty will be all that he gets from here on in. Make sure there's no leaks. We're gonna put the sheet metal back on again. It's a great tractor, love the tractor. I'll buy it in a second, but the sheet metal is just a nightmare because they're fine thread, 5/16 bolts. Then it's 40 years old, people have replaced it. So then you've got coarse thread nuts with fine thread nuts. Some are quarter, some are 5/16. It's not much fun putting it back on again, so we're not gonna make a video on that. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Comment down below if you want to see more of this stuff. I can see ourselves doing lots more of this old stuff. It definitely still has its value, and now we've got a nice new engine to match that nice new tire. Here we go. Now I got a leak, but that's transmission oil. That's hydraulic oil. So, good thing these are only 15 minutes to split. Smell that, that's definitely transmission oil. In our upcoming video, check out how to fix a transmission leak on a 275 Massey bell housing.